Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So today's episode comes to you courtesy of my incredible patrons. Once a month, patrons vote on what commander they'd like to see in an upcoming episode, and the commander that gets the most votes wins. And the commander that got the most votes this month is Kadira, Caller of the Small. And this is anything but a small, impactful commander. This commander may be uncommon, but there is nothing uncommon about it. A 3/3 Orc Ranger for 3 mana in Selesnya with Trample. Whenever Kadira deals combat damage to a player, for each token you control, create a 1/1 White Rabbit creature token. Now, basically with this, some crazy things are going to be happening because every single time we hit a player with Kadira, it's not like, oh, okay, make X tokens based on the amount of damage, which is still nice. No. It's, hey, how many tokens do you have? Oh, well, I've got 5 creature tokens. No. How many total tokens do you have? Okay, well, I've got 5 creatures, 3 treasures, 4 foods. You count every single token and you double it. So essentially, you double up the amount of tokens you have every single time. And here's the thing. There's some very easy ways to use and abuse this, so we get this effect more than once each turn. Each one of our turns, I should say. And yeah, this can get out of control in absolutely no time. We've just got bunnies everywhere, rabbits everywhere, taking over the game. And yeah, this is not only a budget-friendly commander itself, being just 13 cents, it's a very budget-friendly build as well. According to Moxfield, just $21.73. Keep in mind that doesn't include the cost of shipping or the cost of basic lands, but you might already have those. You might be able to get them from your LGS, from your friends, or just buy them in bulk online. Regardless, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into the tactics. First up, let's start up an army with cards like Secure the Wastes, an incredible card, instant for X and a white, very simple, very effective. Create X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens. This can change the game on its own. I mean, I guess with the help of you having mana and utilizing it properly, but it can change the game on its own. Just picture this again. You're in green. You can ramp very effectively, very efficiently. Right before your turn, everyone's like, oh, well, they just have their commander out. That's not very threatening at all. Nothing at all else out. And then all of a sudden, oh, I'm just going to dump 6 mana into this. Cool. All right, I'll make 5 tokens, go to combat, get through my commander, all of a sudden double that essentially. You are just ensuring that you start yourself off on the right foot with an amazing card like this. Very flexible, very fantastic. Moving on. Horn of Valhalla. Equipment for 1 and a white, a bit more flexible. X white, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, so it gives you those soldiers as well. I guess more inflexible when it comes to the timing on it. Is a sorcery. That being said, equip creature gets ++1 for each creature you control. That's a great way to just equip this to our commander. Maybe even turn our commander into, at some point, a one-shot KO very, very, very easily. I mean, in fact, with a combination of a couple other cards we'll talk about here in a little bit, very, very easily, but essentially a way for a commander to get even more damage through potentially with that trample, so keep that in mind. Next up, March of the Multitudes. Oh my goodness. Secure the Waste and then some. Instant for X green, white, Convoke. So our creatures can help cast this, which again is huge. When you can make an absurd amount of creatures, you can cast this for an absurd amount. Instant speed again. Create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink. Being able to gain a ton of life off of this to pad our life total again is also huge, on top of just establishing the amount of creatures we have. Moving on. Scepter Celebration. I kind of alluded to a card like this, and yeah, it's a great effect to have on Kadira as well. +2/+0 in Trample. That's nice. We already have the Trample. Quick creature deals combat to a player. Create that many 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. So this kind of does the other side of what these kind of, type effects typically do. Like, hey, come through a damage, make that many tokens. With our commander now, we do both. We make that many tokens, and also we get to double up our tokens. So yeah, this can be quite impactful. Again, especially with other things that can pump our commander too. Next up, White Sun Zenith. Very simple, very effective, and repeatable potentially. Create X 2/2 white cat creature tokens at instant speed. Then we shuffle this back into our library so we can do it again. So yeah, again, a great card. Next up, our opponents can even help us out. Thank you so much, opponents. We knew you loved us. Rest of the Endless Web. Reach. Whenever an opponent casts an instant sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with Reach. I mean, it's very nice. It doesn't really matter what that token is. It's lovely that it has Reach, so we can get some extra defense out there to block some flyers. But hey, opponents, go ahead. Cast your instant sorceries. Give us some extra tokens so that we can just make even more out of those with our commander. Next up, Felder Retreat. Very simple, very effective. Landfall. Hey, you want to enter the battlefield? Cool. You get a cat, 2/2, or you get a counter each your creatures, they get vigilance on turn. So again, we can make our creatures even deadlier, or we can make our army wider, or we can do both. And again, we are in green, so landfall is very easy for us. Next up, Creation of Ocean. Again, very simple cards. 5 mana, 5 creatures. Congratulations, you're getting yourself set up in a great way again. With Kadira, if you get through once, now all of a sudden you're at 10 creatures. Get through again, now you're at 20 creatures. Or we can speed things up with this a bit more. Flash you back for 9 mana, make 10 creatures. So yeah, again, with Kadira, it's like, oh yeah, cool, just super boost how we are getting to the end game. Next up, Maya, Bodyguard Protector, a great Anthem effect for us. Other creatures we control get ++1, so a nice pump effect for our entire team. Again, our little rabbits that are 1/1s are twice as deadly now. Whenever a land is battlefield under control, you also get a 1/1 human warrior creature token. So being able to, again, landfall very simply, very easily, very effectively can really help you out. Next up, Rabble Rousing. Hideaway 5, so there's some extra card advantage there that's easy to unlock. Whenever you attack with one or more creatures, create that many 1/1 green-white citizen creature tokens. So basically, while we're attacking, we double our army, then we hit with our commander, we basically double our army again. Absurd. On top of that, if we control 10 or more creatures, very easy to get to. Cast that card for free. Play that card for free, I should say, because again, if it's a land, we can still play it. Next up, let's go on to tactic number 2, add it up, because we're not done with our tokens just yet. We can add even more into the mix, basically for free of some effects. Peregrine Took. If one or more tokens you create in your control, those tokens plus additional food token are created instead. We can also sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card, which is great. But keep in mind, again, while we are just expanding our army and expanding all the amount of tokens we have, by just getting additional free tokens, that's great, because Kadira counts any kind of a token, not just creature tokens. So keep that in mind. Next up, Queen Elenel of Rudok, a star of noble, power tops each one of the creatures you control. If one or more creature tokens you create under control, those tokens plus a 1/1 white soldier creature token are created instead. So again, a threat in and of itself, and also, of course, an extra token producer for us as well. Rootborne Defense is a great way to get one additional token of whatever we want, essentially, on top of, well, making our creatures indestructible. So again, populate. Creatures get indestructible on a turn that you control. So 3 mana, protect your team, and also get an additional token. What's not to love about that? Tireless Tracker. Again, we already talked about landfall and being able to take advantage of it. Whenever your land is battlefield under control, investigate. Make a ton of clues with this. That's fantastic. On top of that, when you're sacrificing clues, you get counters on this. So yeah, expand your army essentially by getting more and more clues and hitting with Kadira, and also draw some cards if you want to make this into a threat. Finally, Search the Premises. Chant for 4 mana. Whenever a creature attacks you or planeswalker you control, investigate. This is a great attack deterrent because your opponents really have to be like, gosh, if I attack them, they get a clue, which can turn into a rabbit, which can turn into more rabbits, essentially, or they can just utilize that clue for card advantage. It's a big decision now for your opponents to actually attack you. When you do, you actually get a benefit out of it. So you might even encourage, like, yeah, swing, please, hit me. Come on, bring it, hit me. I got all these rabbits here. It's fine. Swing at me. Why not? Speaking of swinging, though, let's move on to tactic number 3, get through, because, yeah, the name of the game with this deck is make tokens, hit with your commander, and we have to hit with our commander, which the trampling helps usually, right? But it might just be easier to protect our commander and get through with something like Zephyr Boots. Cool creature is flying, usually enough to get through on at least one opponent, and typically, again, if it's got trample too, and maybe a pump effect or two, get through on them anyways, even if they do have a flyer, because it's going to trample over them. Whenever cool creature deals combat to a player, draw a card, discard a card. Great looting effect, great card selection there. Next up, Cloak of the Bat, and also Fleet Feather Sandals do the exact same thing. Flying and haste. So being able to get our commander out, equip this right away, and all of a sudden swing through with that flying, that is fantastic to be able to double up our army out of, well, not nowhere. Our opponents can see that this is in play, and then see we've got our commander, and then be able to do that. But I guess if you play it and do it all in the same turn, then there you go. Moving on, Gilded Pinions, this helps out in 2 ways. First up, enters the battlefield, create treasure token. So either some temporary ramp force, which is great, or again, a nice little addition to our token army, which, I mean, it's not really part of the army because it's a treasure, but it adds that army because it makes rabbits. Quick creature has flying. Magic's a weird game. Treasures make rabbits. Anyways, next up, we got a Key to the City. Tap, discard a card. One creature's unblockable until end of turn. Yeah, what's better than, like, flying for evasion or any other kind of evasion? Unblockability. Just be able to say, my commander is coming through no matter what you do. Don't worry about it. I got rid of a card for it. Oh, no. Oh, wait. When this untaps, I can pay 2, and then I can draw that card. So it's kind of like a delayed looting effect, or delayed rummaging effect, I should say. But also, yeah, just being able to get your commander through is fantastic. Next up, Prowler's Home. Basically, unblockability. Equip 2. Equip creature can't be blocked except by walls. Here's the thing. Unless you're playing against 1, 2, 3 Arcades the Strategist decks, you're gonna be able to get through on at least one opponent with this. It's not 0% chance, but it's a near 0% chance that every single one of your opponents has a wall. And chances are probably around 95, 99+% chance that none of them have a wall in play. So yeah, this is basically unblockability. Speaking of which, Trailblazers Boots, also like a 99% chance in Commander to get through at least one opponent with this. Quick creature is non-basic land walk. Yeah, unless you're playing against like 3 mono-colored decks that have absolutely no non-basics, you're getting through on an opponent with this because everyone has a non-basic in play, typically. Although I guess my Joda deck usually doesn't. So there's that. But that being said, you're usually going to get through. You can definitely get through a Champion of Lambholt. Creatures with power less than Champion of Lambholt's power can't block creatures you control. Any creature you control. It only starts off as a 1/1, but hey, whenever the creature is battlefield you control, you get a counter on this. Just one token making effect, essentially, can make this into an unblockable force that makes all your other things an unblockable force. And then when your commander hits, you double up your army. You make this even more unblockable and more gigantic. So this can be a massive threat that can get all your creatures through. Absolutely incredible. But as good as all these cards are, there is one, in my opinion, that stands above the rest. That is a golden pig of this deck, which is Duelist Heritage. Now, this card is absolutely incredible. An enchant for 3 mana in total. Whenever one or more creatures attack, you may have target attack creature gain double strike until end of turn. Keep in mind this does not say, like, creatures you control. This can be anyone's creatures attacking, meaning that every single turn, you've got a great option. You can be like, hey, you know what? I'm your buddy, right? And they're like, I don't know, you got all those rabbits in play. You're like, I'm your buddy, okay? When you're swinging, and you want to swing, right? You got that big, scary creature out there. Why don't you go swing at that player over there? Go swing at that player. We don't like that player, right? Like, okay, I guess. So you are encouraging other players to swing elsewhere potentially, or just making their creatures hit harder against other players as well. It's a great politicking card, but of course, the most important part of this is with Kadira. Being able to give your commander double strike is insane. Absolutely insane. Because again, your commander's trigger is on combat damage to a player. And what double strike does, it lets you hit once and then twice. So all of a sudden, yeah, you're hitting extra with your commander, which is nice. And you potentially, take them out with commander damage. More importantly though, most of the time, you're like, okay, I make rabbits once. Again, let's say you have 5 tokens in play. Let's start off with this. You have 5 tokens in play. You hit with that first part of the double strike. Cool. Now you have 10 tokens in play. You have the second part. All of a sudden, you've got 20 in play because you've got 10 more. So you just went from 5 to 20 instead of 5 to 10. This doubles up the speed of your deck, essentially, when it comes to making tokens. Absolutely incredible. And that's just like a base level expectation of the deck. If you had 10 tokens in play to start, you go 20 to 40. You have 40 tokens. It's absurd. You can do some crazy things with double strike. And that's why we're not quite just done with double strike just yet. But yeah, definitely in my opinion, this is worthy of the title of Golden Pig. Because now let's move on to tactic number 5, Double Trouble. First up, we got Paladin class. Woo, spells your opponent's cast during your turn cost 1 more to cast. Sorry, opponents. Instant speed things. Yeah, slow down on that. Also, we've got a nice Anthem effect. Creature control +1 at level 2. Level 3 is where it gets really spicy, though. Whenever you attack until end of turn, targeting attacking creature gets +1 for each other attacking creature and gains double strike. This nearly with this deck guarantees a one-shot KO with your commander. I mean, I guess I say one shot, but it's like it has double strike, so it's like hitting twice. Regardless, you're going to be making an absurd amount of rabbits, obviously, with that double strike, and also just taking your opponents out in one hit with your commander, so have fun with that. Next up, very simple, very effective. Fire Shrieker, a great equipment. Quick Creature's Double Strike, does everything we want it to do. Flaming Fist is a great background to have in play. Commander creature you can own have whenever this creature attacks, gains Double Strike until end turn. Very simple, very effective. All we need, essentially, again, is just, hey, commander, hit harder. Thank you. Brass Knuckles, when you cast a spell, copy it. Creature double strike as long as there are 2 more equipment attached to it. Obviously, you could just attach both of these to your commander, or if your commander already has another equipment attached to it, just attach one of them, and all of a sudden, double strike. Lovely. Avenging Hunt Bonder, double strike itself. On top of that, whenever it attacks, you get a double strike counter on another target attacking creature. Again, like a permanent double strike effect on our commander, as long as it stays in play. That is fantastic. Also, Sigarda's Vanguard, a 3/3 itself with flash and flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, choose any number of creatures with different powers. Those creatures gain double strike until end of turn. I mean, this doesn't match up well, I guess, technically with our commander, when it's like, oh no, I can only pick one of these 2 to have double strike, but it's like, I don't really care. Get my commander double strike, and all of a sudden, hit harder, get more rabbits. What's not to love about that? Moving on. Now, we already talked about a couple of anthems, but in this tactic, this is the anthem. We're talking about even more anthems. Some fantastic ones like Intangible Virtue. Very low to the ground. Just 2 mana. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. This is massive. This is huge. Again, your little 1/1 pet rabbits, I mean, which might be even bigger with other Anthems, just little 1/1s now are 2/2s, doubling up their power and toughness, and all of a sudden, vigilantly. They can swing freely at all your opponents. Yes, go, rabbits, go! So friendly, except for deadly and taking out my opponents. Lovely, thank you. Good job, rabbits. And, yeah, you can also stay back for defense as well with that. Next up, not defensively, but very offensively, you can utilize a card like Dictative Heliod. I guess you can use it defensively as a trick. Anyways, you can flash this in, and creatures you control get +2/+2. That is massive. Again, you send your army out, and your opponents are like, it's just little 1/1s, right? Okay. Yeah, you know what? I don't really wanna, I'll block with, I guess, this 2/2 right there. I'll block with some 2/2s there. I'll take a couple there. It's just a little bit of damage, right? And you're like, okay, flash this in. Every of my creatures get +3/+3. And they're like, oh no! Yeah, it's a great effect. And so, yeah, being able to flash that, I guess you could use defensively too if you are blocking with your creatures. Next up, collect the blessing, not flashing it in, not being sneaky at all, but all of a sudden you're like, hey, creatures I control get +3/+3. All of a sudden, your tiny little 1/1 rabbits that you're making are 4/4s. Gross. Yeah, our opponents aren't going to last very long at all with this. Keep in mind with all these Anthems too, pumping your commander is a very good thing to get damage through that trample as well. Next up, though, let's move on to tactic number 7. Start it up because, yeah, I mean, how are we going to get to all these things? We need to ramp, right? So, of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 tap, sacrifice, get a basic land and play tap. Next up, Font of Fertility. Also, another great turn 1 play. Basically exact same thing as Wayfarer's Bauble, but as an enchantment. Wild Growth, another great turn 1 play, enters the battlefield. We're going to attach this to one of our lands, and all of a sudden that land can tap for an extra green. So a great ramp spell. Next up, Rampant Growth, the OG ramp card. Go get a basic and play tap for just 2 mana. Edge of Autumn basically is the exact same thing if we've got 4 or fewer lands, which typically we do when we want to ramp. Later in the game, also a great spell. Cycle it away by sacrificing land. Almost messed up there, but I kept going. Anyways, moving on, we've got Cultivate. 3 mana. Go get 2 basics. 1 goes into play tap. 1 goes in our hand to set ourselves up for our next land drop. Grow from the Ashes. Fantastic. We can kick this, and all of a sudden we get 2 basics and play untapped. 1 if we didn't kick it. Harrow. Sacrifice 1 land. Go get 2 to play untapped. Keep in mind, hey, great with landfall effects right there. Search for another great turn 1 play. We can actually suspend this just for a single green mana on turn 1. All of a sudden, turn 3 comes around, and we're like, oh, okay, cool. We got a basic land to play untapped. Lovely. Migration Path, another great spell. 4 mana, basically exposed vegetation, but with some cycling involved as well. So if we want to cycle it away, cycle it away. If not, go get those 2 basics into play tapped. Next up, let's go on to tag number 8, Dig Deep, because, yeah, we've got plenty of ways to get more and more and more spells into our hand to take up the game further and further and further. First up, Idol of Oblivion. Very simple, very effective. 2 mana, we can tap it to draw a card. Oh, only if you create a token this turn. This deck creates tokens a lot. So basically, once we get things set up, we're going to be tapping this for a lot of card advantage. Also, if you need it, you can pay it and tap and sacrifice to make a 10/10 Eldrazi, which can be quite fun. Next up, Audience for Tostani. Source for 3 mana, make a 0/1 plant creature token. Also, draw cards equal number of tokens you control. That is huge. That is massive. A differently named creature tokens, I should say. I messed that up right there. But we have plenty of differently named ones anyway, so draw a good amount of cards with this. Next up, Cutzil. We have a 3/3 cat warrior. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. That is already incredible because we don't want our opponents really messing with what we're doing. Just saying like, hey, you know what? Could you just not on our turn? Just not. Let us make a bunch of rabbits, okay? Whenever one of our creatures you control with combat with greater than its base power deal combat to a player, draw a card. Again, we've got a lot of great anthems in this deck, and this essentially says, hey, you got an anthem, maybe you got a counter on you, whatever you have. We're drawing cards when you hit players. Next up, Rumor Gatherer. We can actually just, draw cards and scry whenever we have creatures come into play, too. Whenever creature enters the battlefield under control, scry 1. Second time to resolve this turn, draw a card instead. The amount of card advantage and selection we get with this is absurd. Your temple's under attack. Make a buddy. Again, we talked about earlier, Duelist Heritage. Make a buddy. Hey, we're friends, right? I mean, you've got a scary rabbit army. No. We're friends. I'll take them out first, okay? And then we'll fight. Oh, okay, I guess. You draw 2, I draw 2, all right? Okay, you're scary. Anyways, also, you could just make creatures you control gain destruction on turn instead. So if you want to protect your team, great. If you want to make a friend and draw some cards, do that. Next up, Harmonize. Very simple, very effective. 4 mana, draw 3. Slate of Ancestry. Be careful with this one. 4 tap, discard your hand, draw a card for each creature you control. Yeah, it might seem like a great idea to draw 40 cards at a time, but make sure you've got 40 cards in your deck. Because, again, you can make an absurd amount of creatures. And yes, this is a great way to keep drawing more and more cards, but at a certain point you might be like, oh, I got too many creatures in play, so be careful, but it's an amazing card when you really need to refuel your hand. Moving on, Symmetry Matrix. Whenever a creature power equal to its toughness enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 if you draw a card. Basically, every single one of your tokens, essentially, is going to meet that requirement. So, yeah, basically, you make a creature token, pay 1, draw a card. Lovely. Shamanic Revelation, all of a sudden, again, be careful when you're casting this. Just count the number of things you have and count the number of cards in your library. Draw a card for each creature you control. Yep, that's a lot. Also, you gain 4 life for each creature you control, power 4 or greater. Typically, I mean, like, you might not get there with your little 1/1 rabbits, but again, if you just have, like, a Collective Blessing in play or, like, multiple Anthems in play, you're there. And all of a sudden, you pad your life total to infinity. Not infinity, but, like, hey, you got, like, 40 rabbits in play that are 4/4s. Congratulations, you gained 160 life. Yay! Speaking of which, Camaraderie. You gain X life and draw X cards, X number of creatures you control. Creatures you control get +1 until end of turn. So a nice little pump effect for our team. A great draw spell. And also some life gain, too. What's not to love? Next up, let's go to tech number 9. Get out of here! We've got Swords of Plowshares, a great card that is now very budget-friendly. With all of its reprints recently, instant for a single white mana. Get rid of a creature! Hey, you gain life equal to its power. Good for you. Congratulations. Too bad your creature's gone for 1 mana. Or Mutation. You can destroy an enchantment, and when you do, you make X/1/1 Saplings. Rex its mana value. Yeah, this can be a great way to not only get rid of some pesky enchantment, but also make an absurd amount of Saplings to really help you out. Martial Coup, a flexible spell. Create X/1/1 soldier creature tokens. If X is 5 or more, destroy other creatures. If you don't want to destroy creatures, sure, just put 4 in there. That's fine. Yeah, make some creature tokens to get you going. And if you want to destroy things, yeah, destroy things and put a lot in there. Make a massive army. Next up, Sundering Growth. Destroy an artifact or enchantment. Also populate. Again, populating can be absolutely massive. And keep in mind, again, we do have a way to make a 10/10 Eldrazi in this deck. So if you get to that point, do it. Moving on. Generous Skip, destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elfin creature token. This could even come in handy for you because, again, like, hey, you're like, I don't really have that many tokens in play. And I need a blocker. Let's get rid of that land and make a 3/3 elephant. Cool, I set myself up right there. Again, it's flexible. Do it to yourself, do it to your opponent. Most of the time, you're going to be taking out an opponent's thing, but still. It's flexible. Next up, Oblation. Speaking of flexible, the owner target non-man permanent shovels in their library, then draws 2 cards. If you really need to get rid of something, Panic Button, great card to get rid of any of your opponent's things, essentially, except for their lands, and say, yeah, it's basically gone for the game. It's shuffled in your deck. They're probably not going to draw it again. And sure, you get 2 cards to replace your Blightsteel Colossus, but I get rid of your Blightsteel Colossus. That being said, you can also utilize this on one of your own things, be like, oh, yeah, I need to draw some cards. Little token over here. Go away. Cool. All right, I get 2 cards instead. Cleansing Nova, very flexible board wipe. Choose 1. Draw creatures, draw artifacts, enchantments. Choose whatever is best for you in that situation. And then also Austere Command. Exact same thing, essentially, when it comes to, hey, it's a great flexible board wipe, but even more flexible because it says choose 2, destroy artifacts, enchantments, small creatures, big creatures, whatever you need to take out, take them out. Typically, you'll get rid of big creatures because you get mostly small ones. And then Hour of Reckoning, speaking of get rid of, well, your opponent's things, convoke this out to draw non-token creatures. Again, you're going to have a lot of tokens in play, keep them in play, and all of a sudden your opponent's boards are wiped out. But now that we've talked about every single non-land card in this deck, let's quickly go through some great lands in tag number 10. Great lands. Access Tunnel, tap for a colorless, pay 3, tap target creature with power 3 or less can be blocked this turn, which includes, of course, our commander. Next up, Castle Ardenvale can come into play untapped when we have a plains, tap for a white, and we can actually pay mana to tap and make a 1/1 soldier token. Found to the consoles, pay 5, tap, sacrifice this, make 2 1/1 Thopters. Rogue's Passage, just complete unblockability for any of our creatures, and our commander, we'd love to make it unblockable. 4, tap, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Spawning Bed, pay 6, tap, sacrifice this, we get 3 Eldrazi spawn tokens that we can actually sacrifice for mana if we want. And Vitu-Ghazi the City Tree. Test for a cause, pay 4 mana, tap, make a 1/1 sapling. So again, plenty of ways to add to our token army. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this one. Also in the description below, make sure you check out that deck list link if you're interested in this deck and consider picking it up. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.